The 2019 Senior Bible Quizzing season has come to a close, and to put a bow on top, today, episode 10 of BQ Chats is a 2019 Senior Bible Quizzing Recap. I'm really excited to have brother and sister Faubert on to talk about what this season has been like for them, from their perspective. We're going to talk about extravs, nationals, the awards banquet, the prayer and share, the devotionals. We're going to talk some about next year, questions, the material. I'm really excited to hear from them and hear what they have to share with us today. So, if you guys are ready, here we go. Brother and sister Faubert, thank you for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Yeah, great to be with you.
It's good to have you guys. I thank you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedules, and now that Nationals is done and maybe your lives are fairly normal again, I don't know. Thank you for taking the time. How has it been these last couple of weeks after Nationals? Are you guys rested and ready to move on to 2020?
Well, I don't have much of a chance to catch my breath. Kind of the schedule necessitates that I almost dive right back in. But I've at least taken my foot from the gas pedal, being all the way to the floor. For my wife and the quiz team, they typically take at least a couple months break. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This is the 2019 Senior Bible Quizzing Recap. First one we're going to do. I'd love to do something like this annually with you guys, just to kind of recap the 2019 season or the 2020 season next year and so on. So if you can describe the 2019 quiz season in one word, what would it be?
You go first.
Overwhelmed.
Oh,
Overwhelmed.
overwhelmed.
Yes. And of course, that has a positive and perhaps a negative connotation to it, and that's why I've chosen that word. On the not so positive side, the transition and everything into this quiz season was a real challenge for me personally, and it was one that really didn't get going until the extravaganzas in March. The first extravaganza southeast there at Atlanta West really sort of helped me, I don't know, get my mojo back or whatever you want to call it. To that point, it was a real challenge. But from that point forward, being able to reflect more adequately, conscientiously on the months that had passed, and then in the months as they approached and came, I'm just overwhelmed by God's grace and His goodness. The extravaganzas were wonderful, so smooth. And then Nationals, just, I have to admit, I was a little concerned when I saw the numbers going up, which I was glad to see, but at the same time, I knew that we weren't getting any more time. So to have Nationals go off as smoothly as it did, and the devotions, the prayer and share, everything, I'm still really amazed at God's grace and goodness. Yeah, overwhelmed. We sort of come at it from different angles, because
That's true.
I'm sort of the team, my wife included, in many respects, as a coach, is at arm's length. So she's not involved with what I do necessarily, and I'm not involved with what they do, other than just being on the periphery and being remotely aware. But
My word would be unexpected.
Unexpected.
Unexpected, yes. Anytime that you join up with a team that's already established, you don't know what to expect. Because for some teams, it could take years to finesse your way around each role that each quizzer plays.
Right.
And so when you come on a team that pretty much already has that worked out, it's a challenge, and you don't know how it's all going to work out. Can it work out in 1 year, or is it going to take several where you kind of have to work through all the bumps? But God's been so good this year, and the three boys just gelled, right from our first tournament. It all kind of panned out. Everybody did what they had to do. And first and foremost, when we came here, I told Rylan, I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I said, you just quiz Zach 4-6. I've been taught that when I was a young girl in quizzing. So that's always been my motto, any kid that I coach. So just quiz that way, and then basically let the chips fall where they may, wherever God, takes you and the plans he has for you in that quiz season. We're just going to trust him with the outcome. We'll do our best, be part of his plan, and then see what God decides to do with it. So I would say this year was unexpected. Pleasant, unexpected, I would say.
Whenever we all found out that you guys were going to be joining the Newark team and Ryland was going to be quizzing with Caleb and Marcus, I think pretty much everyone knew that it was going to be a very good team. I was more interested in how you and Brother Beardsley would coach and work together, but obviously you guys coached very well together, and your team was incredible. I mean, y'all had an awesome team. Only got to quiz you once, and it didn't end well for my team. So,
well, I would say we were just all we were tired.
Yeah,
I do remember that we were just exhausted.
All right, the Bayou Blast is what we're referring to, and it was that was quite a trip for all of us, and quite a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
Also, I was very happy with how the quizzers interacted, and it was a blast. I recommend it. All right, well, thank you guys. So what were some of your favorite moments this year? Just if you can name a couple each, maybe just some standout moments.
That moment that you dropped the mic off of the platform in Nationals. Yeah. That's gone viral. Has it gone viral yet?
I don't know if viral is a correct description, but thank you, Taylor, for that. Oh, yeah, that one kind of blew up a little bit. That was fun. It just happened to be in one of the biggest quizzes of the tournament, but it was a way to keep us loose. We were kind of loose.
I think one of a defining moment for me as a coach / mom, I could say, and not many people were there to witness it, would have been at our state finals this past year. The team against a small district, I understand that, not many quizzes to be played, but in the quizzes that we were in, there was such an anointing in those games. I don't know how to explain it other than that. I mean, you can experience the anointing behind that quiz board. And I'll just speak as a mom, seeing my son quiz to that level where I was just in awe. I was just sitting back there going, Lord, and like all you could give is just the glory back to God. It wasn't like, oh, he's so good or he's so great. It was incredible to see that, just question after question after question. And it moved me because you could just feel the presence behind the board. So that was a moment as his mom, as a coach, that it's forever going to be up here. So it was a joy to watch.
I'll throw one in. One moment that I cherished that involved mainly you, Sister Kim, is after Extravaganza, just outstanding message there on, I believe it was Friday night. And then one of my kids, Sherwin, was you felt in the spirit that you needed to speak to him, and you really poured into his life. And I appreciate that from, a national coordinator together. I know it's not just you, brother Faubert. It's also you, Sister Kim, to take the time out to pour into our kids. I know it's not just Sherwin. Throughout the year, you do that with multiple kids that you feel led to. And I appreciate that. And I know that that had an impact in his life. So that was a moment that I'll always remember, and I appreciate that. What a great extrav. We enjoyed ours, and I imagine all the extravs were incredible.
Rather than a singular moment, I would have to say there's like types of moments that I really cherish and that tend to stick out. And I'm sort of hedging a little bit here just because I don't necessarily feel the liberty to name quizzers or folks, but it's sort of like what my wife said, those moments where a quizzer is quizzing beyond themselves and they're quizzing under the anointing, and you can sort of sense that. Sometimes even they may not be the high score in the quiz, and yet they're quoting the word with such faith and power that you feel that resonate in your spirit. Those are moments that I don't easily forget. Those moments where, like you mentioned, my wife speaking into Sherwin's life, when you're praying after a devotion or after a prayer and share service or rally service, and God directs you whom to pray. And I don't approach somebody with something specific in mind. You just begin praying, and God speaks through you. Many times I don't even remember necessarily what was said, but I remember that moment with that individual. And so those are the things that really sort of stand out. I would be remiss to say that the officials recognizing Ryland as Quizzer of the Year was not a highlight. Going back to that one word, being overwhelmed, as I mentioned that night, when it became apparent he would be one of the finalists, I recused myself from further interaction, and I trusted them and the Lord to have things fall out as they would. But I was definitely a highlight, and his speech, what he had to share, was very touching and moving.
Yeah, I planned on bringing that up at some point, for sure. That was definitely a highlight for me too. It came down to two of my favorite kids, unfortunately, and between Ryland and Avery, and I was so happy that Ryland got it. I mean, he obviously deserves it. I mean, he's an incredible quizzer, an incredible young man, and super happy for him. And for you guys, and man, his speech, goodness, it choked everybody up for sure. But very proud of him. How did you feel about that moment, Sister Kim?
Well, I mean, I was crying over there at my table, so just because I knew, again, when you receive those awards, it's not just a piece of hardware; it's what it symbolizes, and his parents and God will only know, what this year has meant and the things he had to go through. So it's just a little extra special, and God saw fit to, honor him through this award, and we're grateful for that. I thought it was really cool. Been to a lot of banquets, what have you, but to see all those individuals up there and to hear them comment, hey, this is our crew that's up here. And it was a very light moment. I get it was a serious moment as well, but like, these were all friends up there. These were all people that hung out with each other, and whoever received the award, they were going to be happy for that individual because they were all buds, if I could say it that way. So it was a cool moment to see all five of them up there.
I did really enjoy that, and I think Avery said, Ryland said, "We got the whole squad up here." Those words. So It was enjoyable for sure. And honestly, it could have gone to so many quizzers, but none more deserving than Ryland. It was a special moment for sure. And what you said, brother Russ, it came down to Avery and Ryland, and you paused, and I was like, well, congrats, Ryland.
I really didn't mean to pause that long. I was just trying to compose myself, formulate how I wanted to say what I said for the sake of the integrity of the ministry. Yeah. I don't want to supply anybody who may be challenged in their spirit with ammunition that way. Again, I certainly don't think he was undeserving, but I wanted everybody to be clear as to how things went down.
Well, I think it's very clear that everything was handled perfectly. I mean, I don't see how anyone could have any ammunition over anything. He truly is deserving, and you obviously handle yourself in the most professional way possible. So thank you for your leadership and the way that you handle those types of situations. It's good to be able to look to someone like you in those situations. All right, so we kind of got off track, but that's fine. Bible quizzing, senior Bible quizzing has obviously been blowing up, growing. Many divisions are just growing, and nationals has grown. Some of that may be to the extrav rule changes for qualifications, which is interesting, but the numbers are truly growing. And what do you think has led to that?
Well, I think the groundswell began with our 50th anniversary and the focus on that. And I forget who said it. It's long stuck in my mind that we reach the heights that we do by standing on the shoulders of giants. So, this role in this ministry has been entrusted to me for a short period of time, and I've received the baton from those before me, and I'm doing my best to run it so I can pass it off to somebody then whoever that is, the next person to carry it. But so I would say that it's the fruition of a lot of work going back even before our 50th anniversary. When I began as the director, and I've shared this publicly on a couple of occasions, but I began as the director. It was a Sunday morning, and Sister Melissa Frost, who is the Metro Missionary to Quebec City, was a guest with us that morning, and she spoke on Elijah and Elisha and the double portion. And it was just the right thing that I needed to hear. It's so easy to get caught up with the numbers, how many teams and how many young people and the statistics. And one of the reasons that I loved baseball growing up is because I love statistics and numbers. Math, maybe not so much, but I love statistics. Mm-hmm. But what resonated with me that morning was that Elisha didn't ask to do twice as many miracles as Elijah, though we know that that's what he did. He did 14 compared to 7. But what he asked for was a double portion of the Spirit. And I've felt that to be my sort of guiding principle over these first 2 years, that if we focus on the Spirit and activating the Word with the Spirit, the numbers, the growth, it'll take care of itself. I'm not going to get hung up on that sort of stuff. It's the easiest thing to promote. It's the low-hanging fruit when somebody asks for a summary. I'll give you the numbers, sure, but it goes far beyond the numbers. So that focus on the Spirit, I think, and I think the Lord, I've tried to be intentional and feel after God for the devotions and the rally speakers at extravaganzas and at nationals. And I think the Lord has proven his word time and again, definitely. So
I'd have to agree that between all the, the extrav rally and the nationals devotions, I don't think it has to be the best that I've ever been a part of as a year cumulatively. Just all the speakers, all the messages on point, incredible. Enjoyed them immensely. It is exciting. I agree, getting caught up on the numbers isn't the right thing to do, but I am excited to see more and more kids being involved and their lives being changed for sure.
Yeah.
I know our quiz program just the excitement level, we're doubled to start next season right now. So I've kind of got my hands full trying to figure out, I need more coaches and I need another quiz room and we need another night to practice and trying to figure out all that stuff. But kids are excited. NAYC does that, a lot of that, the excitement and obviously we have kids that have done well and that love Bible quizzing and share that and preach the impact that Bible quizzing has had in their lives. So I think that's why we're seeing more numbers, but not only are we seeing more numbers, you're right, we are seeing a deeper portion, I believe. Mm-hmm. So awesome. Moving on. First of all, Brother Faubert, what is it like to be the National Senior Bible Quizzing Director? You've done it for 2 years now, right? And then Kim, what is it like to be married to the National Bible Quizzing Director? Besides, obviously, you just adore him. And
I adore her too.
Thank you.
I'll occasionally have people approach me, young men or women, say, "Well, what do I have to do to be a quiz master?" And maybe it's just me. When it comes to roles and positions within the kingdom, unless you feel directed of God to sort of seek after a position, it's kind of a red flag for me. And so I say that to say this role is not one that I've ever sought. It's one that by one movement after another, I felt that I was positioned, and when it was extended to me, I prayerfully accepted. For me, I'm not hung up on the title. I don't, it's about ministry, and whether that ministry is from behind a pulpit reading questions, or a pulpit preaching, or out in front of a pulpit praying in the altar, or doing a leading discussion in a youth group, it's ministry, and it's synonymous, or should be synonymous with serving, and so that's really how I see it. It's just another way in which to serve.
I agree. But being married to him as a national quiz master, it's really not a big deal. Like he's Russ to me, and
she helps keep me grounded.
I do. Yes, I bring laughter into his life. Yes.
You bring laughter into all of our lives.
I'm his sunshine. No, like he said, you don't want to, it's just a title. There's a lot of responsibility behind it, but you're not hung up on that. It's just ministering to young people. And for me, he's reading the questions, he's doing the deliberations, doing all that. I like to connect with the kids on a different level. And so just having fun with them, hanging out, playing volleyball, that kind of stuff. When we go to tournaments and we're having fun, that's mine. So he's just Russ to me. He ain't no national quiz master. I know all his flaws. So, and if you want to know any, just come down, ask me behind the scenes.
I always enjoy your contest you bring down in his session, because it's always just like everybody seems to kind of perk up and kind of pay attention to how you two interact. And obviously you always interact very professionally, not any attachment, but it always is interesting. Is she going to tell him that he's going to sleep on the couch if he doesn't grant this contest tonight? But obviously that doesn't happen. But or has it happened?
No.
Not for that reason.
Not for that reason. All right. Well, speaking of you guys being a couple involved in quizzing, how do you guys balance? I got a list here. You are a married couple, and that brings its responsibilities. You are parents, which has huge responsibilities. You are coaches. Brother Russ, you coach in juniors as well. You are quiz masters. You are question writers, both of you, and you're ministers. So how do you guys wear all these hats and balance all this and stay, sane? Because I don't think I could.
Well, our psychiatrist helps us out a lot. So we spend a lot of money seeing him. I'm just kidding. I don't think it's the. I'm not going to lie. Some days it's hard. Because you're trying to balance your family life and not be so consumed with quizzing. So there'll be times where Russ is very busy with emails, a lot to do with quizzing, church work, what have you. And I'll just tell him, you know what, you can handle that tomorrow, because there's always going to be a long laundry list of things to do. So just leave it alone. Let's just go outside and play basketball with the kids. Let's go for a walk. Let's go out. So we have to be intentional with our time and just try and find balance. But honestly, there are some days there's no balance. There's no balance.
All right.
Scenario. So,
Russ, any secrets to the trade?
Well, when you say balance, I long thought of it like a scale, right? Where you put more time and you show like this. I think of it more now as one of those gelatinous balls that kind of morphs and shapes, right? That's might be a little more accurate. Still, it is about being intentional, and I suffer from a problem, an issue that a lot of men do, and that is that I'd like to solve problems. I want to feel successful because I've solved problems, and when emails or other issues come up, that immediately attracts my attention because I want to solve this problem. If the kids are not there expressing a problem, then it's easy to not be intentional with them.
So that's why I help him out, because I come alongside with my problem, and then now he's got to solve my problem.
Yes.
Helping out.
Yeah, some days it's consumed with work, and other days I just say, okay, I've done everything that's absolutely pressing. We're just going to take a day and focus on the family. So I don't know if that's the best way to balance it, but
you have to take time out for your family for sure. Especially, I mean, you guys have 4 kids. Everybody.
Don't remind me.
You have 4 awesome, fun kids. Asher finally knows who I am.
Good.
That was my goal at the beginning of nationals. I was like, "Hey, bud, what's up?" And he was like, "I don't know you," and he just and I was like, I'm gonna be friends with that kid one day. And I think I broke through. I think I broke through by the end of nationals. So did you guys enjoy being in St. Charles? I know we're going to be there next year. And it's, do you think anything will be different next year, even though it's in the same location? But what did you like about St. Charles, and what could be different next year?
Well, my wife may have more to say about this, but yeah. When it comes to nationals, it really doesn't matter what city I'm in, because I'm in the hotel room or I'm in the quiz room for 5 days. Like, I don't see sunlight. I just go from one to the other. Yeah. So for me, the city of St. Charles, we could have been in Kalamazoo or Walla Walla, Washington. It didn't,
Well, did you enjoy the facilities that we were able to use? And I mean, did it work well from a nationals planning standpoint?
Yes, I think so. The convention center was amenable to some, not exactly last minute, but addendums to the original contract. So that's always good to have a good working relationship. The Missouri District uses that convention center on a fairly regular basis, annually, I should say. So they're not unfamiliar with what we need. But they were very responsive while we were there in terms of the AV and stuff like that also. It was nice to have all the quizzing within a short walking distance, basically around the corner, and it allows us room for growth as well. If and when we do go to more sessions, we've got the ballroom, which is right above us, that we can expand into as well. So all of those things are good. It's close to a major airport, and there's lots of restaurants nearby. I didn't eat at any, but what else? The hotel, Embassy Suites Hotel. We've been to this one before. We've been to the Embassy Suites, a similar setup in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We found the hotel and convention center combo really good. And the hotel worked with us to be able to have the Quizzer hangout on nights that it was feasible. And going forward, we'll try to get it every night. But
Phil and I have another opinion on that matter now, don't we?
Is that right?
They were.
You can edit that out.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
The night crew didn't love the kids hanging out late as much as we wanted to let them hang out, but I think we worked it all out.
That's right.
Sister Kim handled it while you were in bed.
No, I think Dylan handled it.
Yeah, shout out to Dylan.
I think that may have been a matter of some lack of communication on the part of hotel staff to their full.
Hey, it was a memory. It was
a memory.
Big memory. It was all good.
It all worked out, and we had fun dealing with the problem. Sister Kim, did you have anything you wanted to add about St. Charles?
Well, I like that little shop that was on the side. There was this one little worker there. She was fantastic. I would go in there. She gave me cheesecakes for $1.25, bro. I mean, I was like, I was in heaven.
Yeah, now everybody's going to go there.
Oh, no. That was just favor. That's just favor for me. And free sandwiches too. That's what I told my son. Go
You're going to get her in trouble.
No, I think she might have been the manager, is really what I think. But sweetest lady. So I thought, that's a perk. Free food. Go down, get sandwiches and dessert, and saves me money. Hey, it's awesome.
Hopefully she'll be back next year.
Yeah, I mean, she should be there, unless she got fired.
Yeah, because she's giving away free food.
No. Yeah, I think it's a great setup. I like the Embassy Suites. I like the fact that the kids can, all congregate, downstairs, free breakfast. I mean, you can't beat that for quiz coach angle. Can't beat that.
Good breakfast. The best breakfast as far as hotels are concerned, in my opinion. So next year it'll be back at St. Charles. Big fan. And then we just found out, which we tried our best, Brother Faubert, to get it out of Kim, because we found out she knew where NAYC was going to be in 2021. She didn't crack. We tried to crack her. She didn't crack. So rest assured. Indianapolis. So that's exciting. Do you think we'll be back in the same place we were in 2017? Or is that up in the air?
Quizzing won't be held within the convention center itself.
It will?
It will not.
It will not. Okay. So to be determined.
We sourced another property outside of the downtown area. So it'll be kind of a similar setup to the St. Charles, St. Louis kind of deal. So yeah, that'll be the arrangement.
Oh, cool. Well, that's obviously 2 years down the line. How far do you go down the line as far as nationals locations, and like how far do you plan ahead? I'm just curious.
Well, most of the planning is done by the youth executives when it comes to, because nationals is sort of on the piggybacks. I don't want to say that it's less of an event, but it's held in tandem. Obviously, Youth Congress, when you're talking 35, 37 plus, in the future, hopefully we'll hit 40 even, 1,000 people, that has to be your priority when you're scheduling and planning. So I believe not only the 21, but the 2023 locations already set, and they have to do this many years in advance. Yeah.
Do you think St. Louis may be the off-year place, or do you think we'll keep moving it around?
He's fishing. He's fishing, bro.
Fishing a little bit. You don't have to answer. You can say no comment. It's
I
fine.
had no comment.
Okay, no comment. Good deal. Well, we know where we're going to be next year, which is all we need to know. All right. What was it like to prep and write questions for a tournament as large as the one we just had? I know that writing questions is a huge burden on you, and I know you enjoy it, and you write fantastic questions that we all try and live up to, obviously. And obviously more teams, and like you said, it was kind of adding up at the last minute. What was it like to plan and to work? And obviously it's not just you, it's a large team. But how did planning go, and what was it like?
Well, the writing of the questions, I typically create my worksheets and spread all things out. I've got a district worksheet, a national worksheet that I have ready, usually within September. And so I'm ready to go at that point. When it comes down to it, let me just say this. It may take me to write 20 questions, the first 20 questions might take me 40 minutes or 45 minutes to write, let's say the equivalent of a quiz on a good day, between 45 and 60 minutes, I would say. Well, the last 20 questions, after you've already written 2,500 questions, to write 20 more questions, probably takes about 4 hours.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So as we saw the registration numbers climb, we knew we had the same number of sessions, so that would require more quizzes, of course. That means I'm going to have to eke out more, and it was a bit of a challenge, to say the least. I thought I was ahead of the game. Turned out I wasn't, and so I was scrambling there at the end to get enough questions. And going forward, from the beginning of the year, I'll just have to plan accordingly. I never want to sacrifice the quality of a question just because I need more questions, right? Just quality for quantity's sake. And that's why to just dig and mine more questions just takes more time to do that, because I don't want to, somebody's going to interrupt and answer that question, and if it's not a good one, and occasionally, there aren't good ones. They slip. Appreciate your comments, but I would go through, even at nationals, I would go through and I would mark questions that I felt that was not written as well as it could have been for the quizzer's sake. So yeah, I want to write as few of those as possible. It just takes more and more time.
Well, as many as you have to write, and obviously if you're behind and have to, I think we can forgive a couple. It's okay, nobody's perfect, but you obviously write very thoroughly and very, I don't know what's a good word, thoughtfully, I guess, very, when in regard to the material and the quizzers, you understand where the quizzers will be hitting, and you want to give them enough information. I felt like personally that there was it was a good mix of questions that they can be aggressive and questions where they really had to be disciplined. And it was, we struggled with that, especially at state finals. But that was our word of the nationals, was discipline. Big question, discipline.
It is. It is my goal, and intentionally, I try to write different questions for different types of quizzers. There are some quizzers who are just all about the speed, and it's just pure reaction. Well, there's going to be some questions like that, especially you find those more often in the 10s. But quizzers who are given to that and may not be as given to sort of thinking through and anticipating, they still have a role to play on the team. There's still space for them within the ministry. Then there are other quizzers who tend to be a little more deliberate. Just their their temperament, or they're more disciplined, whatever you want to call it. And so questions like a 3-part question or a cross-reference question tends to be more in their wheelhouse. Well, I want to write questions for that type of quizzer as well. So I do try to get that mix. For the quizzer who is all about the speed and just pure reaction, when they hear 3 or 4-part, 5-part question, that should be a clue. Okay, I need to pump the brakes a little bit here. It's not always a clue that I think it should be, but I'm not looking to hamstring a quizzer, but I do try to write for a spectrum of quizzers. Yeah.
Since we're on the topic of questions, doctrine was obviously interesting because there's many different writers of the material, and that can kind of lend to different verse patterns and flows and ebbs. So questions could very much vary this year, which they did, which is great. Psalms next year, how do you think it's going to be more similar as far as a whole, or how do you feel like the questions may change because of the material? I guess we can just talk about Psalms.
Okay. Well, I don't know that I'm the best judge of that, or at least even after the fact. I can sort of look back on it, and with people's input and feedback, I can sort of formulate an idea of how the questions shook out. But you're right, each year's material is different, which means by default, because I'm writing from those verses, then the questions are going to be affected by the material. You know, anything Paul writes, Romans or Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, like that is challenging stuff. And so guess what? The questions are going to reflect that. I mean, there's maybe a lot more whys or hows or something. Whereas a narrative like Acts, or in 2021, we're doing Mark, you know, one of the gospel narratives, tends to be a little more straightforward, and the questions will be easier because the material is easier to understand. And so coming back to Psalms, I'm not sure. We've got 40% of the material this year is new. So this is a different study that we've done the last couple times we've done Psalms. So will that have an effect on the questions? It probably will to some degree. I don't know if I'm the best one to judge that. But
I really enjoy the blurbs. I don't want to call them blurbs, but at the beginning of each chapter in the material, I know that had to be a lot of work, very much a lot of work that was put in, and I'm guessing that was you that did that. So thank you for doing that. It definitely lends a perspective that you can read and do some research and kind of figure out where David was when he wrote that. So I commend you. Thank you so much for doing that.
Sure.
Do you want to tell us about that process?
I enjoy research, a biblical research at least, and I'll say that, but at the same time, it took a lot longer than I anticipated, just because there was not a lot of consensus amongst scholars. And to take 37 Psalms, only a handful of which, you know, had anything sort of definitive, that I basically just took out of the prelim. And then they are short little blurbs, but for each one took a lot of time and a lot of reading, a lot of commentaries, a lot of other resources, trying to, you know, as I said in the sort of preface there to the material this year, the Jewish tradition, and just, I have to say, sometimes I just didn't know, and I would pray and feel like, God, you know, based on this or this or this, I feel it best fits here, and try to be led of the Spirit. In the end, I think if we can place a psalm within a context, then it becomes layered. You know, all of a sudden there's depth to it, and you can see it. And David's all of a sudden living this out, and oh, this is the exact moment that he would have been, you know, spontaneously singing forth this psalm. that to me just is exciting and creates not just here are the verses to memorize, but since I was appointed as the Experienced Division Quizmaster beginning in 05, I pushed for having the quiz material rather than just a collection of verses, but really to have it as a sort of curriculum to study. And this provides that element for the coming quiz season. I think it places it within the context, and you can further study that context, though you don't have to memorize it, of course. But, you know.
Well, thank you again for doing that. It's nice that is provided for us so we can do the research and have that available. And I know it was a lot of work, so thank you for doing that. So one part of nationals that is obviously a favorite for many every year, and I would love to get both of your takes on prayer and share this year. And I am curious because I know I don't know if both of you do, but how do you prep these last year quizzers for their speech? Because I know some of them are rearing to go and been planning this since they were 7, and then some of them are just scared to death and don't want to get up there. So what is it like to getting them ready to go, and what did you guys think this year?
I'll defer to you.
No?
I will, yes. So it's a first.
I think every year is fantastic. I mean, I don't weigh one year against another. You've got a different collection of young men and women every year, and each of them have got their own unique stories. So I don't sort of compare it one year to the next. I was there in 1989 as a quizzer when the very first prayer and share happened. And it seems a little surreal to think that was 30 years ago, but there were several nationally recognized quizzers whose last year it was, and Brother Walker had asked them to speak and introduced them and gave them just a few moments, and then just felt to have everybody stand and pray. And it was rather spontaneous that people just started coming forward, ministers and quiz officials, and laying hands on the quizzers. That wasn't something that was prepared or anything. And from that time forward, we really tried to position it as a commissioning service of sorts, like a commencement, I guess. In that Bible quizzing is a preparatory ministry. It's not an end in and of itself. It's the means to an end to be able to minister and impact the church and the world. So I think we've tried to give everyone their due. It used to be that quizzers didn't have a time limit and they just go on. So we've tried to respect those in the audience, and 2 hours is kind of our target. This year was especially challenging because we had 40 speakers. I think the most that we'd previously had was maybe 34 one year. And so, yeah, it's a challenge, but they were respectful. And in our orientation, prayer and share orientation, we basically confirm everybody how to pronounce their name and where they're from and how many years, get all of that sort of stuff out of the way. And then we sort of give them the ground rules. We can't assume, because it may be that some of them, it's their first time at nationals and they've never seen a prayer and share or participated in a prayer and share, so we can't assume any of that. We sort of give them the ground rules. They had tops 3 minutes this year, and that's such a challenge to wrap up. I mean, some of these quizzers, even a single year, to wrap up the impact that it's had on your life, because we've heard testimonies from quizzers who only had 1 year of quizzing and yet were changed so dramatically. To wrap up 1 year in 3 minutes would be challenging, let alone 12 years, you know. But they were respectful, and I think there was only 1 or 2 that kind of pushed it beyond the 3 minutes there. And Brother Lytle was just starting the music.
So.
But yeah, so we lay the ground rules, and this is what's going to happen when they come in, and we tell them you can, however comfortable you want to be, you want to dress up for photos or not, you can. And then there'll be a brief charge, 2 or 3 minutes, just as a prayer focus before we spend the rest of the time praying. We instruct them to speak from their heart, and you're right, there are some who have never spoken, or they're like deathly afraid of speaking, and yet I gave each of the quizzers this year, 40 of them, the opportunity. We don't want people who feel that they can't get up there, at least not to be recognized. And I feel that that may have happened in the past, where they felt perhaps unduly pressured that they would have to talk, so they didn't even show up to the prayer and share. I don't want that to be their last experience in quizzing. So we said, we'll recognize you, we'll call out, you know, you can stand up and then sit down again. But everyone opted to speak. So I was proud of the group. So we tell them to speak from the heart, but to prepare something, because 3 minutes will get away from you if you're not careful. Prepare something, even if it's bullet points. It doesn't have to be word for word, but bullet points. And it's all right to show and share emotion. It likely be an emotional moment, but that they're in an environment that's safe and secure, and the people there love them and are proud of them. And I think even a group, you know, a setting as large as that, we probably had, I don't know that we got an exact count. We were well over 1,000, but maybe even closer to 1,200 people at the prayer and share. And yet I am blown away that these quizzers feel, and you were there, you heard some of them share really vulnerably and transparently issues that they've dealt with. And for them to feel that sort of support, to be able to open up, just blows me away. I mean, it's the spirit at work in these prayer and shares, definitely. And then the prayer afterwards is always an incredible highlight. And I try to be sensitive to the spirit and go where God directs me. And I try to get around to all of them. It's difficult to do, especially when there's 40, but I have to trust that God accomplished what he wanted to accomplish within that time, whether through me or other people. So it doesn't have to be me. I mean, there's other people and officials, quiz coaches, you know, ministers. So
I am curious, Kim, I would love your take on Taylor's last year's speech last year, and what you are going to do to prepare for Ryland's next year.
Well, to be truthful, I don't really tell them what to do. I don't instruct them. I think the only time, I'll throw Taylor under the bus. Why not? She was giving her vision right before she went on her AYC trip to the church, and I'm in the pew, and I detect as her mom that she's having a hard time wrapping it up. So I just text her, because she has her phone right there. I said, okay, time to wrap up now. And so she's reading, and her phone goes ding. And so she proceeds like, oh, what's that? Like, I don't know why she even turned but she turned to her phone and then just read out, my mom just said that, you know, and I'm like, really, Taylor? But yeah, her prayer and share last year was, it was unexpected. If I could say, because you don't know what they're going to say, and it kind of gives a nice touch, a nice moment when you don't know what they're going to say, because it's so unexpected, and they're being genuine, you know. And yeah, I mean, I've got it recorded, you know, somebody was kind enough to record it for me, and yeah, it's one of those things that you sock away as, you know, one of the memories. So, but I'll talk this prayer and share, and even last year's prayer and share, to be able to hear these kids speak and to hear their testimonies, you connect with them. For some kids, you never connected with them really on that level. And then when you hear, you're like, wow, something resonates. And then you do the commissioning, which is fantastic. But what I love is when the commissioning is done. Now, people leave, some people leave, what have you. But the ones that are kind of still left there, last year it happened, and this year too, God just kind of swoops in, you know, on a different level. And last year we had a praise break, you know, at the tail end of, I'm sure you were there at the prayer, and it was phenomenal, you know, because it was incredible. And even this year, there was such a moving, you know, people didn't want to leave the altar. And that's why I encourage coaches, you know, make sure your kids are there, even if they're not last year quizzers, like come, and because God's doing a work, and he has done a work in these last couple of years in that kind of tail end. It's kind of like a special moment, like something that was saved for those that kind of stuck around. I don't know how to explain it. It was just, it's cool. It's phenomenal. So coaches, plug, be at the parent chair from beginning to the end, you know, and let tomorrow, you know, handle itself. It all will work out. So, yeah.
I agree. It's always tough Monday night of nationals because everybody's exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I was like, guys, I don't care how tired we are. We're going. Like, sorry, like we're going. And they all wanted to go, but we all were exhausted. And
you know what you do, Phil? You do what Ryland did. You bring a backpack full of snacks. And you're pulling out bananas and all these other snacks. I'm like, dude, you come prepared.
That's one way to do it for sure.
The entire row.
Yeah.
You read the entire row. Well, how are you ready for his last year as his coach? Are you ready to obviously it's not the end of your coaching because you've got more, you know, lined up, but Zachary and Asher. But I mean, Ryland's obviously a special quizzer, and he's had an awesome career. And it's so impressive that he never quizzed intermediate. He went straight into experience. Right. And it's quizzed at a high level. I wasn't there early on, but seemingly every single year. So yeah, I'm trying to prepare because the year following that, I have my 2 quizzers that I've been with forever that are going to be aging out. So I don't know. How are you ready? Is it going to be different? Do you feel like it's going to be different? Or do you think it's going to be the same?
Be sure to bring Kleenex.
I mean, I'll be the same. I think with him, yes, he's my son. Okay, I'm his mom. Like, I can't rule that out. But I've been behind the board with him ever since he started. When he was 8 years old, you know, my husband coached. I coach with him at home. I keep score for my husband. So being on this journey with him, yeah, it's all I've known with him. Believe it or not, Ryland was the kid that was adamant that he was never going to quiz.
Wow.
So yeah, Taylor quizzed her first year in Troy. Ryland wasn't old enough, and he said, I'm never quizzing. And he was adamant. And you got to understand, Ryland was very black and white in everything that his thought process was very black and white. So I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, you don't have to quiz, dude. I'm not forcing you, whatever. That's your choice. And then he came around, and it came naturally for him. But he also got hold of the Zach 4-6 principle, you know, even at a young age. But I will prep myself, like he said. I mean, I will have Kleenex, but it's not the end, you know, because like Ryland said, it's, you know, hardware and it's trophies that, you know, like Russell's was, you know, in the garage, you know. So no, I'm just going to coach the same way I always coach. We're going to enjoy the year. My philosophy with him is, you know, go to each tournament, have a good time, go behind the board, quiz unto the Lord, give God what you got, and, you know, trust God with the outcome. So if you win or lose, if you've given it to God, then, you know, you're all right with it. You're not pouting in the corner because you lost, or you're not gloating because you won. You know, okay, God. But then the next quiz could be something completely different. We both know that, right, Phil? So
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to enjoy the ride. I don't want to be focused on the end. I want to focus every day and just enjoy that. Because if I think about his last year's speech, it's going to distract me from the day-to-day coaching with him and just being his coach / mom. Make sense?
Yep. And hopefully I can have the same mindset in 2 years where I'm not their mom, I feel like their mom sometimes, but hopefully just, you're right. That's a good way to think about it. Just enjoy the day to day and take it a day at a time. Because the older I get, the more I live event to event to event, and that makes life go by real fast.
Yeah.
And trying to enjoy the day to day, especially with my kids and, you know, my actual biological kids, is important. So I'm going to try to do that with them, and with Sherwin and Avery, 2 years left with them, and just enjoy it, because they're a lot of fun. They're like family. And I've enjoyed seeing them grow, and we had a lot of fun this year. This was probably my favorite year as far as just the teamwork, the camaraderie, the fun we had, and just growing as a team and bonding. We just had a lot of fun. So hopefully that stays. We'll have fun next year.
Right.
All right. So thank you for all you said about the prayer and share. Now, the other big event at Nationals is the banquet, which obviously is a lot of fun. My pastor made the comment, his first banquet, I think, was in 2017, and he was just blown away at how all these quizzers that have been competing and going against each other for the whole year and this week are just so excited for the ones that they get the trophies and win the awards. And he was just blown away at the support of the, you know, everyone. And I had to say that's one of the best parts of the banquet, obviously. But share a little bit maybe behind the scenes about the banquet and how you enjoy the banquet, and what it's like for you and how you enjoyed it this year. Obviously, we already talked about Ryland, and this was when I was going to bring that up. But obviously, him and winning was great. But yeah, what did you think of the banquet this year?
It went fairly smoothly. I think the only hitch was trying to get that video to play for Brother Graham. But other than that, I think things ran really smoothly. The platform was a little smaller than previously, but that's because we needed more room for as many tables. I think we had eclipsed 800 attendees the last couple of years, and I think there were almost 1,000 there this year.
Wow.
You just need more space, and that's where we've got to sacrifice. The banquet for me is kind of a blur. Like I wolfed down I'm coming rushing out of the voting session. I used the last 2 or 3 years, I've shown up late to the banquet after the doors have already opened. I wolfed down at least part of my food, and then we've got 25 team trophies to present, and then all the individual awards, and we're trying to pack this into a relatively short time frame again. So it was just like more of the same. Let's shoehorn more into less time. But I think again, God's good, and it ran smoothly. So we were out of there in pretty good time. I was a little surprised when Brother Carson wrapped it up, and I was like, oh, it's this. I think it was only like 10:30 or something. So.
Yeah, it wasn't bad on time at all this year.
10:30. Sorry, 11:30.
Right.
11:45, something like that.
And we started at 9, and yeah, it went well. And my daughter is 5, and she made it. She made it. It's a little late for her, but once she ate the chicken nuggets they brought out for her and the lemonade, she was good to go. But yeah, that's my favorite part of the banquet, is just the sincere support that everyone gives for each other, and that was a blast this year. And what everyone said, all the messages, and yeah, and that video was super impactful. That was wonderful. Yeah. Really enjoyed that. So you mentioned the awards and the voting, and I don't want to get anything we don't want to get into. But I'm always curious about the 5 categories that are picked on for the Quizzer of the Year and such, and those always interest me. So you mind talking about those?
Sure. We have 5 categories within which we weigh the finalists. And those are deportment, so how someone carries themselves, covers a lot of things at the board, away from the board, interaction with their peers, members of the opposite sex, respect for coaches, all that sort of stuff. So deportment, teamwork, commitment, their competitive proficiency, certainly, and lastly, kingdom-mindedness. Do they have a heart for the ministry beyond themselves, and they see the bigger picture of what the ministry is about, that sort of thing.
Well,
yeah, we have those 5 categories for Quizzer of the Year and for Coach of the Year.
Gotcha.
We've got a worksheet that we pass out during our officials orientation. So again, those who may be new to the official staff, it's the first time they're likely seeing it, so they get a chance to review it, and maybe they have some people in mind from their district or in their surrounding districts they've seen over the course of the quiz year. But then they can keep these things in mind over the course of the tournament as well. Nationals is the last tournament of the year. It's the biggest tournament. It carries the most heft, but it is a Quizzer or Coach of the Year award. So we try to account for the scope of not only what happened over those 4 days, but over the entire quiz season. And in terms of the Quizzers and Coach of the Years, to be honest, even beyond that single year, the sort of body of work, if you'd like to use that term. Yeah.
Well, I know that you guys take the judging very seriously, and I appreciate the time. I know you're probably wiped out and just ready to get to the banquet and eat your food and get the night over with. But I know that yourself and the judges take it seriously, and we appreciate that. And I enjoy the 5 categories are just they're interesting, and it's nice that it's organized in such a way where it's not all about competitiveness, and it shouldn't be.
Right.
It's nice that it's organized in a way to really, categorize it all and to not weight one thing over the other.
Mm-hmm.
That's great the way it's set up. All right.
Before we move on, just to take the opportunity to, for the sake of transparency, and let me couch that a little bit. We have these voting sessions. They are closed door sessions, so that the officials can speak charitably, but frankly, and we do not want anything to be shared outside of those rooms because it could be too easily taken out of context.
Right.
And so they are closed door sessions, and I am never at liberty, or any of the officials are never at liberty, to share the good or the bad. Really, they're outside that room. But in terms of the actual process of how we go about doing that, I'd love to take advantage of this opportunity for just a moment to sort of share the process that we go through.
Sure, absolutely.
Because we don't really get into that a lot of detail. There's just not time during the awards ceremony, and it's not canonized in the manual, because if it would like to be changed, and then we can do so. But we receive nominations, open nominations, and as those nominations come up, we try to speak circumspectly about that quizzer in those 5 categories. And once we've it is one of the most challenging parts of the entire quiz season to come up with the nominations for Quizzer of the Year or Coach of the Year, and then to, usually we have way more than 5 names. It's not like we're struggling to get 5 people. We're not. We've got way more than that, and we try to then just whittle it down. And so we take open nominations. We then take a moment, and everybody chooses 5, whether it's Coach of the Year, Quizzer of the Year. Chooses 5 people that they would vote for, and we go around the table for an open show of hands as to, so we begin at the first name and we count up the number of votes, and then again, and then the 5 names with the most votes are added to the back of the worksheet. If there's a tie between, let's say, the final 2, then we have a runoff vote. It's like you vote for one or the other. And then we add those names, as I said, at the back of the worksheet. And as I mentioned before, once it became apparent that this year, and in years past when my wife has been nominated for Coach of the Year, it became apparent that her name was one of those final 5. I have recused myself, and I did so again this year. We take those names and then they're ranked 1 through 5 in each category. And the and the years that I do not recuse myself, and I do participate in the voting, I'm usually the last one. I'm dragging because it's so difficult. If you can only rank one person with a 5 in that category and somebody else with a 4 and one with 3 and 2. So somebody is going to get a 1, but it's like above and beyond, like they're amongst the 5 out of how many, that didn't make the top 5. So
right.
While it's difficult in that respect, and while we, as a single official, we never have a complete picture, though I perhaps more than most, simply because I have the blessing of traveling the country for extravaganzas and other events. We trust that through the collection of officials from across the country, then we have consensus there. People rank them, turn in their sheets. For accountability's sake, I sit with Brother Lytle. He and I in the experience division, and Brother Strawn and Brother Huffman in the intermediate division, tally up the totals for each individual, and then the person with the most is Coach of the Year, Quiz of the Year, and then for second, third, fourth runner-up. I probably should have said at the outset that we do not start this process without prayer.
Right.
We get together, we understand that the value of this and what it sort of presents for the ministry at large, to even those outside the ministry. And we want to be circumspect, intentional, but spirit-led in what we're doing as well. So we always begin with prayer. And we have even, when things have even reached a point sometimes during the voting where there may be some indecision, or then we have stopped and prayed again. Because I want God to be in every aspect and facet of this ministry.
Right. And thank you for that. And just for clarification, this is all the officials, right? Even the foul judges, everybody that was in the sessions working in an official's role.
Correct.
Involved. And so the 2 experienced sessions are together and 2 intermediate sessions are together, separate.
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Because the foul judge is going to see things that I don't see, or they're going to interact with quizzers that I have only a passing interaction with, but they're able, between quizzes or whatever, interact with them more fully. So everybody has something to bring to the table. Yeah.
My goal, one of my goals at Nationals this year was to break Chad and make him laugh in the middle of a quiz. So that was a goal that I got him. I finally got him. Well, not really. It was, I kept just kind of like looking at him during like long deliberations, just staring at him, just trying to get him to look at me and break a smile. But we enjoyed, we had Megan obviously as a foul judge and Chad, and I'm friends with both. So it was fun. Fun, just kind of like, the long, Sister Kim, when there's those deliberations and you're just trying to pass time and you just kind of like look at the foul judge and just catch each other's eye.
There were not many of those at this year's National.
There wasn't.
In the finals was the only 10-minute deliberation. It was the longest of the tournament by far.
I remember that one, and that was the Y, right? It was the if the Y went to the next verse.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was Avery answered that.
Yep. I remember. So, just Avery told me after that. So, to be for context for the audience, is the question was according to this verse, and there was a Y, and or is a Y, and Avery said according to chapter 5, and instead of saying according to chapter 5 verse whatever. And because he wasn't sure himself, he told me, he's like, I wasn't sure if the Y went into the next verse or not, so to be safe I just didn't put it on there, because he wasn't sure because he gave his first answer with the first verse, and then he stopped and you said correct, and so he was like, okay, but if you had stared at him he would just given the next verse. And then the contest happened, and the contest was that the following verse should be included in the Y, and so that gave us our one special 10-minute deliberation.
Yes.
Avery told me, he was like, I just wish I would have said the verse.
I wish that too.
But it was fine. There's always going to be one, I guess, right? But I have to say, we weren't in your session nearly as much. We were in B session until the general session, but I was very happy with the speed and the efficiency of the sessions and the quizzes, and I thought it went very well this year.
It was likely the smoothest tournament of which I've been a part, and I've served as a national official now for 20 years. And just given the number of teams and the aggressive schedule we were under, I was really concerned that we'd be quizzing real late. But I mentioned to folks, each day, the Saturday, we were a quiz ahead, so in effectively 30 minutes that we scheduled, and the devotion and the response to the devotion took an hour and a half. The next day, we were 2 quizzes ahead. So the devotion from Brother Hernandez, the Saturday from Brother Albritton, incredible, and then Brother Hernandez, once again, incredible. The response to that was, the devotion and the response was 2 hours. So it's like God knew exactly how much time we needed, and that's what we got.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. And like you said, the devotions were super impactful, incredible. So I was not aware of, I had never met Brother Hernandez before, and I know him now. He made an impact in my life, and Brother Greg Albritton has a special place in my heart. I known him since I was small, and his message was awesome and perfect for the timing and everything. So appreciated both of them. All right, so we're gonna start winding down here. We've been going a little while, but there's a couple more things. Well, actually, so we're kind of on this topic. The question is, were there any memorable contests this year? And obviously we had the one 10-minute deliberation contest, but there's always humorous contests. There's always interesting contests. There's always thought-provoking contests. You don't have to name people, but was there anything that stands out from this year?
From just nationals, or the year in total?
Year in total, if you could think of it all. Avery happened to get a contest granted in your session at nationals, and he was shocked. he was like, I felt like I completely botched it. I just went down there and just like muttered words, and we got granted. I can't believe it. But I was proud of him that he did it, because I typically bring down contests unless I feel like the quizzer has it in their head much more firmly than I do, and it would sound better from them, then I send them down. But yeah, is there anything that stood out this year?
Well, my wife would like me to say all of her contests.
What?
You may have the best ratio for correctly granted contests to not.
Well, I think that speaks to the fact that she's a very good coach, and she knows likely going to be, worthwhile to bring down or not.
I've listened in to some of her contests. I've pricked my ears, and she's very good. I am very impressed.
Because I hear a lot of contests that are a bit of head scratchers. I'm thinking I'd like, and when I have the opportunity, I may just share with the quizzer or the coach afterwards to say, okay, here's the thing, and okay, then they understand. And many times, unfortunately, they're not really contests at all, or not complete contests. They'll say, well, the verse said this and they said this. And I try to raise my eyebrows and look at them and like try to draw more out. And then maybe it's just because they're nervous and they turn and walk away. I'm like, well, okay, well, why is that incorrect, or why should it be counted correct? That's the meat of the contest. And or the fishing expeditions where they don't really have anything, but they're trying to bait me into saying something and giving something away. That doesn't work. So don't. I don't know if that works in certain districts, but it's not going to work with me. So
you don't say much, at least to me, when I bring down contests, except for once. I think Extrav this year, it was a terrible contest, and I brought it down, and I basically proved my contest invalid as I spoke. And you were like, "Yeah, you kind of got yourself there, huh?" I was like, I appreciate your candidness with me.
One of my weaker moments.
It was bad. I mean, it was a bad contest. I
remember that one. Yeah.
It was one of those where I got a little overconfident in my abilities to spin something out of nothing in a moment where we needed something. And Sherwin brought something back. He's like, I think this. And I was like, you know what? I can work with this. And I should have prayed about it a little bit before I brought it down there. But
I don't know. The Lord wouldn't have granted that. So.
It was one of my weaker moments, and I learned from it for sure. But contests are always a fun part of quizzing, and I had no idea how to contest or what to contest or anything early on a few years ago, and I feel like every year I'm kind of learning a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So it's just a growth thing.
Yeah.
What districts surprised you or impressed you this year? I just filmed my podcast for Junior 2019 review with Brother Marshall, and I'm not putting this out there that we should do this, but I was very happy with hearing that they are creating a District of the Year award in the junior program, which was really cool idea. I thought kind of like an award, not just for the district, but for the district coordinators who are sort of an unsung hero, unsung heroes in Bible quizzing because they do so much. But I thought that was a really cool idea. So were there any districts that you were happy with, impressed with, that grew, that showed growth, not only competitively, but in other ways as well?
Districts specifically,
or districts, or programs, or whatever. Sister Kim, you probably can speak up to this too, maybe.
Well, let me just say that years ago, we did have a District Coordinator of the Year award. It was discontinued in the mid-2000s, and it kind of seemed like it had run its course at that time. A lot of the small handful of coordinators, it kind of just rotated between them. And so it was discontinued. That's not to say that it won't work in junior. Certainly, if they feel to do so, I think that's a great idea. And it may be something we need to revisit even in senior quizzing. So we have had it in the past, and certainly I think the districts that are reflected with their participation at extravaganzas, the number of teams at nationals, that sort of thing, are the easy ones to identify, I would say. So go down the matrix and say, oh, say that this district had half a dozen teams there. That's wonderful. I don't know, how do I say this? I guess there's certain things that might impress me or that I'm pleased with when I see it. I guess that's a better word. I'm pleased with rather than impressed. But I'm pleased when I see that within a district there's efforts to dovetail the junior and senior ministries, and that there's not friction or tension between the two. I'm pleased when I see the senior ministry working in concert with the district youth leadership, district youth presidents, secretaries, sectional reps. I'm pleased when I see quiz teams supporting district events and youth events, going to rallies and this sort of stuff. I'm on a team level or a local level. I'm pleased when coaches and teams make devotions a priority. Whether it's certainly the devotions at Extravaganza and Nationals should definitely be a priority, but even taking time, and it doesn't have to be a long time, but to have a focus on the word. Again, the whole goal of the ministry is not to be an end in and of itself, but we are preparing young people beyond this. So whenever I see elements like that, praying in the altar, enjoying fellowship. I mean, fellowship is apostolic. That's Acts chapter 2 as well. So when I see kids having fellowship and free to meet people and interact with quizzers and young people outside of their immediate church or their immediate district, that always pleases me. Yeah.
Well,
does that sort of answer your question, I guess?
I think so. I was wondering if there was a district that stood out this year that maybe has grown in some way, but if you don't want to name anybody, that's not a problem at all.
Well, I think every district is sort of deals with their own sort of set of challenges. One district may not get as much support from their youth department, and so that's kind of a hurdle that they've got to jump that another district doesn't have to deal with. And so, and by support, I don't mean just financially, though financial support is welcome, but by representation and opportunities to promote the ministry and district youth events and this sort of stuff. So it would be easy to say, well, this district is going above and beyond. Well, it could be that they're getting a lot of some momentum, whereas another district is not. So it's difficult to say one over the other, I would say.
Gotcha.
But I mean, since you're doing the interview, Illinois is doing fantastic.
Oh, that's what I was fishing for.
They had the coach of the year and the runner-up.
That was shocking, and I was thank you. I appreciate it. And I was super happy for Shayla. It was really cool being up there and being next to her in the final two. That was fun. I've grown to be good friends with Shayla, and I'm really excited for next year to see what she's going to do in Illinois. And she's the one that I think is going to just take us even higher.
Awesome.
Keep going. But thank you for I'm guessing, and I'm honored to receive the award, and I can thank you guys for supporting me. I couldn't have got into it if you guys didn't believe in me, I guess. So I appreciate it and appreciate your friendship a lot. So with that being said, we can wrap this thing up. Is there anything you want to share with the Bible quiz community? Sister Kim, I know you got a lot to say if you want to say.
What? Now, I would encourage coaches just to keep the main thing the main thing. We can get so focused on what happens behind that quiz board, and that's an important aspect of it. But at the end of the day, at the end of their quiz career, like Rylan had said, it ends up just being a piece of wood. And if all they've done is charts and studying and 8 hours a day, 10, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, everybody each to their own, but if that's all you do and you haven't developed the friendships that are afforded to you through Bible quizzing, and you don't go to the devotions or take advantage of the moves of God that happens at the prayer and share what have you, at the end of the day, those trophies are really not going, they're just pieces of wood, but the friendships, and when you got to know the God of the word, that's going to carry you through when quizzing's all said and done. You're not standing at the end going, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, I guess I should buy a box of quiz cards so I can, because that's my identity. Nothing wrong with buying quiz cards when you're done. That's your choice, what have you. But if that's all you have, then you've lost the main thing. And that's developing these kids into leaders and just better Christians. So
that's right.
That's my advice. 2 cents for what it's worth.
It's worth a lot more than 2 cents, Sister Kim. Well, anything else from you, Brother Faubert? Or?
I would simply echo her. I've stressed the same to coaches, that in our efforts to build Bible quizzers, let's not overlook the need to develop apostolic young men and women who, they will finish being quizzers after 18 or 19, but we need to develop them to be apostolic men and women for the rest of their lives. So, yeah, it's a blessing to be involved. I'm humbled at the opportunity to serve in this capacity.
Well, I think I can speak for the Bible quizzing community when I say thank you, both of you, for your leadership and what you've done for this ministry, and you guys have been inspirational and wonderful leaders. So thank you for all that you've done, and thank you for being on the podcast.
Yes,
thank you for having us.
we appreciate it. I've got a lot of plans, and now that the fall and nationals is over and more time, I kind of have a list of people that I think the community would enjoy hearing from and that have a lot of great things to share. But I really wanted to get some nationals recaps and some 2019 recaps done, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time.
Yes, absolutely.